Captain Zethkar stood on the bridge of the Voidbreaker, his crystal body reflecting the cold light of distant stars. The massive ship drifted through space like a predator waiting for prey. Around him, the command crew worked at their stations, their various alien forms moving with deadly grace. The captain held a datapad in his four-fingered hand. The device showed information about a planet called Earth. The beings who lived there wanted to join the Deathworld Alliance. Zethkar found this amusing. "Commander Vashra," he called out. The acid-resistant Meltai officer turned from her. "Station." Her skin bubbled and hissed where the ship's atmosphere touched it. On her homeworld, she could swim in oceans of acid that would melt through the hull of most starships. "Yes, Captain?" she asked, her voice like steam escaping from a broken pipe. "Come look at this application. These humans think they belong in our alliance." Bashra moved across the bridge, her heavy boots making wet sounds on the metal floor. She looked at the datapad over Zethkar's shoulder. As she read, her face began to show confusion, then amusement. "Their gravity is only twice what their bodies expect?" she asked. "My homeworld has gravity that would crush most beings into paste before they could take a breath." "Keep reading," Zethkar said with a laugh. Lord Krenthal rose from his position. At the tactical station, the Abyssal was massive, built for living in the deepest parts of his ocean world, where the pressure could flatten the battleship. His dark skin was covered in bony plates that clicked when he moved. "What is so funny?" he asked, his voice deep like the ocean depths. "These humans want to join us," Vashra explained. "They say their world is dangerous enough to qualify for the Alliance." Krenthal looked at the data pad. His large eyes, designed for seeing in the complete darkness of the deep ocean, scanned the information quickly. Then he began to laugh. The sound was like boulders rolling down a mountain. "Their deepest ocean is only 11 kilometers deep," he said. "I was born at depths 3 times that. Their atmospheric pressure would feel like a gentle breeze to me." Zethkar scrolled through more of the application. "Look at their predators. They have animals called tigers and sharks. The tigers weigh less than 300 kilograms. Sharks are even smaller. On Veltar, our house pets are more dangerous than these creatures." The 3 officers continued reading. Earth's application listed various challenges that humans faced on their homeworld. There were storms, earthquakes, and volcanoes. There were deserts and frozen regions. There were diseases and dangerous animals. "This is embarrassing," Vashra said. "Do they not understand what the Alliance is for?" The Deathworld Alliance had formed 50 years ago, when the galaxy's most dangerous species realized they shared something in common. Each of their homeworlds was so deadly that simply surviving childhood, they created warriors that other species feared. The Alliance took on missions that were too dangerous for normal military forces. The Veltar came from a world where crystal storms could cut through metal. The atmosphere was filled with sharp fragments that moved at incredible speeds. Children learned to dodge and weave between deadly projectiles before they could walk properly. The Meltai lived on a planet covered in acid seas. The rain was acid. The air was acid. Even the plants produced acid. Their bodies had evolved to resist corrosion that would eat through most materials in seconds. The Abyssal came from a water world where the pressure at the surface was already crushing. They lived in the deepest trenches where the weight of water above them was beyond imagination. Their bodies were built like living submarines. These 3 species, and 7 others like them, had formed the Alliance. They handled the missions that would kill anyone else. They explored the most dangerous regions of space. They fought the monsters that lived in the dark between stars. Earth humans used tools to kill their predators, Krenthal noted, reading further. They need weapons made of metal and chemicals. They cannot even kill their planet's animals with their bare hands. Their largest predator on land weighs less than I do, Zethkar said, and I am considered small for my species. The captain scrolled to the section about human achievements. The humans had built cities and developed technology. They had learned to fly through space and had even visited their own moon. But compared to Alliance species, their accomplishments seemed minor. They have only one inhabited world, Voshra observed. Most Alliance species have colonized at least 5 worlds by the time they develop space travel. Hostile worlds force rapid expansion. Their climate is so mild that they can grow food easily, Krenthal added. They have never known real hunger, real scarcity, real survival pressure. Zethkar closed the datapad and handed it back to his. Aid, send a response to Earth. Tell them their application has been rejected. Suggest they consider applying to the Peaceful Trade Federation instead. They might find merchants and diplomats more suited to their capabilities. Should we explain why they were rejected? The aide asked. Tell them the alliance is for species. From true Deathworlds. Species that have been forged in the fires of hostile evolution. Species that can survive what would kill others without even trying. The aide nodded and left the bridge to compose the message. It is almost insulting. Voshra said, do they think surviving on a garden world makes them warriors? Perhaps they do not understand what real danger looks like, Krenthal suggested. Their planet is so safe that they have forgotten what it means to face death every day. Zethkar returned to his command chair. The Alliance had important work to do. There were 3 missions waiting that required their unique skills. A research station had gone silent in the Void Nebula. Pirates using illegal weapons were attacking trade routes near the Galactic Rim. And something was killing entire colonies. In the outer spiral, leaving behind only empty worlds. Set course for the Helix station, he ordered. We have real work to do. The Voidbreaker turned away from Earth's solar system, its powerful engines pushing it toward more important matters. Behind them, the small blue world continued its peaceful orbit around its ordinary star, unaware that its children had just been dismissed as too weak to matter. On Earth, Admiral Jack Morrison received the Alliance's response 3 days later. He read it once, then read it again. Then he crumpled the message and threw it into the waste disposal. Sir? Lieutenant Katie Ross asked. Should we try to appeal their decision? Morrison looked out the window at the training grounds where human soldiers practiced for deployment to hostile alien worlds. No, Lieutenant. Let them find out for themselves what they missed. 3 months after rejecting Earth's application, the Alliance faced a crisis that would test everything they believed about strength and survival. The emergency began when the arrival. Research Station Deepwatch stopped responding to communications. The station orbited a dead star in the Void Nebula, a region of space where normal physics seemed to break down. Scientists had been studying exotic matter there when all contact was lost. Captain Zethkar studied the mission reports on his bridge. 7 Alliance rescue teams had tried to reach Deepwatch. All 7 had failed. The first team reported equipment failures and strange visions before turning back. The second team made it further, but lost 2 crew members who simply vanished from their ship. The third team came back with 3 crew members who had gone completely insane. The nebula is actively hostile, reported Commander Voshra. Each team that enters reports the same problems. Navigation systems fail. Crew members see things that are not there. Some teams report that their own memories start changing. Lord Krenthal reviewed the tactical data. The 4th team tried using our heaviest shielding. It made no difference. The 5th team used remote drones. The drones also failed. The 6th team included our best psychic defenders. They lasted longer, but ultimately fled when half the crew began attacking each other. What about the 7th team? Zethkar asked. They refused to talk about what they saw, Voshra replied. The team leader just keeps repeating that the nebula is hungry and that it knows they are coming. The loss of Deepwatch was becoming a political disaster. The Alliance Council was demanding answers. Other species were beginning to question whether the Alliance could handle the galaxy's most dangerous threats. Some Alliance worlds were talking about withdrawing from the organization. We need to try something different, Sethkar decided. What options do we have? We could ask the Cosmic Rangers for help, suggested Lord Krenthal. They specialize in strange phenomena. The Rangers are already committed to the war in the Andromeda sector, Mashra replied. They cannot spare any ships for at least 6 months. The Stellar Knights? They lost their entire fleet investigating the Dark Zone incident. They are rebuilding. Zethkar felt frustration building in his crystal body. The Alliance was supposed to be the solution to problems like this. They were the species that thrived where others died. But the Void Nebula was defeating them completely. Sir, called out the communications officer, the Council is requesting an immediate update on the Deepwatch situation. The Alliance Council consisted of representatives from all 10 Deathworld species. They met in a space station that orbited the galactic center, far from any single worlds. Influence. The Council had been patient so far, but patience was running out. Tell them we are exploring all options, Sethkar ordered. Actually, sir, the officer continued, Councillor Thakmer has made a suggestion. It is unusual. What kind of suggestion? He suggests we send the humans. The bridge fell silent. Every officer turned to stare at the communication station. The idea seemed so absurd that nobody knew how to respond. The humans? Mashra asked. The species we rejected 3 months ago? Councillor Thakmer says that since our elite teams have failed, perhaps it is time to try a different approach. He suggests using the humans as a test case. If they fail, we learn something about the nebula's defenses. If they succeed, the officer shrugged. Well, nobody expects them to succeed. Lord Krenthal laughed his deep ocean laugh. Send Garden. Worlders to handle what true Deathworld warriors cannot. That is either brilliant or completely insane. Probably insane, Sethkar agreed. But we are running out of options. Contact Earth. Tell them the Alliance is offering them a chance to prove their worth. The message reached Earth 2 days later. Admiral Morrison read it carefully, then called his staff together for a meeting. They want us to do what their best teams could not, he explained to the assembled officers. This is either a trap or they are completely desperate. What do we know about the Void Nebula? Asked Captain Lisa Martinez. She was one of Earth's most experienced deep space commanders, having led missions to the edge of the solar system. Very little, Morrison admitted. Our long-range sensors show unusual energy readings. The nebula seems to interfere with most forms of technology. Several Alliance ships have entered, but none have completed their missions. Sounds like a Tuesday back home, said Dr. Ben Clark. The xenobiologist had survived 3 tours on plague, worlds where the air itself was toxic. He specialized in studying life forms that should not exist. What kind of crew would we need? Ask Chief Engineer Paul Davis. He had kept ships running during solar flares that should have fried every circuit. He was known for making impossible repairs under impossible conditions. Small team, Morrison decided. Fast ship. People who can think on their feet when everything goes wrong. Security Chief Amy Turner stepped forward. I volunteer for the mission. I have experience with hostile environments and unknown threats. The Alliance expects us to fail, Morrison warned. They are probably using us as a probe to gather information for their real rescue mission. Then we better not fail. Captain Martinez said with a grin. When do we leave? The human ship Urs Defiant launched 3 days later. It was smaller than Alliance vessels, but built for speed and maneuverability. The crew consisted of only 5 people: Captain Martinez, Dr. Clark, Chief Davis, Security Chief Turner, and Communications Officer Lisa Park-Dott as they approached the Void Nebula. The Alliance ship Voidbreaker followed at a safe distance. Captain Zethkar and his crew watched through long-range sensors, expecting to see the humans turn back within hours. Their ship is entering the nebula boundary, reported. The sensor operator. Any signs of the usual effects? Zethkar asked. Their navigation systems are showing errors. Energy readings are fluctuating, but they are continuing forward. The Alliance crew watched in fascination as the human ship pressed deeper into the nebula. Other Alliance teams had turned back by now, driven away by equipment failures and psychological pressure. They are holding steady course, the operator reported. No distress signals. Give them time, Mashra said. The nebula has not shown them its true power yet. Inside the Defiant, the human crew was dealing with the same problems that had defeated Alliance teams. Their navigation computers were giving impossible readings. The ship's lights flickered randomly. Several crew members reported seeing movement in the shadows that should not exist. Standard hostile environment protocol, Captain Martinez announced calmly. Dr. Clark, I want you to study these sensor readings. Chief Davis, run diagnostics on all systems. Security Chief Turner, document everything unusual. Officer Park, keep detailed logs of all phenomena. Are we treating this as a science mission? Dr. Clark asked. We are treating this as a Tuesday, Martinez replied. Something weird is happening. We figure out what it is. We deal with it. We go home. The human approach was different from Alliance tactics. Where Alliance teams had tried to power through the nebula's effects with superior technology and willpower, the humans began treating it like a puzzle to solve. The energy readings are not random, Dr. Clark observed. There is a pattern here. The nebula is not just chaotic. It is reacting to our presence. The equipment failures are also patterned, Chief Davis added. Systems are failing in a specific sequence, like something is testing our ship. The psychological effects are targeted, Security Chief Turner noted. Each crew member is seeing different things, personal things, like something is reading our minds. Captain Martinez nodded. The nebula is not just a hazard. It is intelligent. It is studying us just as much as we are studying it. This revelation changed everything. The Alliance had been treating the nebula as a natural phenomenon to overcome. The humans were beginning to understand that it might be something else entirely. The deeper the Eris Defiant traveled into the Void Nebula, the stranger things became. What had started as equipment failures, an odd sensor, readings was turning into something far more complex and disturbing. Dr. Ben Clark stood in the ship's laboratory, studying readings that should have been impossible. The exotic matter in the nebula was not behaving like normal matter. It seemed to respond to the crew's emotional states, growing stronger when they felt afraid or confused. Captain, he called over the intercom, I need to show you something. Captain. Lisa Martinez arrived at the lab within minutes. She found Dr. Clark staring at a display that showed energy patterns swirling around their ship. What am I looking at? She asked. The nebula is not just reacting to our presence, Dr. Clark explained. It is feeding on our reactions. Every time someone on the crew feels afraid or angry, these energy spikes occur. The more intense the emotion, the stronger the spike. Martinez studied the data. You are saying this thing eats fear? Not exactly. It seems to feed on survival instincts. The fight or flight response that kicks in when we face danger. The stronger that response, the more energy it can absorb. This explained why Alliance teams had failed so badly. Species from Deathworlds had incredibly strong survival instincts. They had evolved on planets where the wrong reaction to danger meant death. Their bodies and minds were designed to respond to threats with maximum intensity. The Alliance crews would have been like a feast to this thing, Martinez realized. Their survival instincts are their greatest strength, but here it becomes their greatest weakness. Exactly. And there is more. Dr. Clark pulled up another display. The hallucinations that teens report are not random. They are specific to each species. The nebula is somehow reading our minds and creating visions based on our deepest fears. Martinez felt a chill. What kind of visions? For Alliance species, it shows them predators from their homeworlds. Things that would trigger their strongest survival responses. But for us... Dr. Clark paused. It has been showing us things from Earth, but not predators. It shows us people we have lost, places we miss, things that make us sad rather than afraid. The captain considered this. It cannot read us properly. It does not understand human psychology. That is what I think too. We evolved differently. Our fear response is more complex. We do not just run or fight when we are scared. We also get curious. We investigate. We try to understand. Chief Engineer Paul Davis entered the lab, his face grim. Captain, we have a bigger problem. The ship's hull is showing stress fractures, but not from any physical force. It is like the metal is aging rapidly in some areas. Where are the fractures appearing? Dr. Clark asked. All over the ship, but they follow a pattern. They are concentrated near areas where crew members spend the most time. My workshop has the most damage. The bridge is also badly affected. Martinez understood immediately. The nebula is not just feeding on our emotions. It is draining energy from everything around us. The more time we spend in an area, the more it takes. Security Chief Amy Turner's voice came over the intercom. Captain, please come to the bridge. We have contact with something. The three officers rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, they saw shapes moving through the nebula. At first, they looked like ships, but as they watched, the shapes shifted and changed. Sometimes they looked like buildings, sometimes like creatures, sometimes like things that had no name. They appeared about 5 minutes ago, Turner reported. They are not attacking, but they are definitely aware of us. Communications Officer Lisa Park looked up from her station. Captain, I am picking up signals from them. Not radio or any normal communication. Something else. What kind of signals? I do not know how to describe it. It is like they are trying to talk to us, but not with words. It is more like ... emotions, feelings. Dr. Clark moved to the communication station. Can you isolate the signal? I can try. Park worked at her controls for several minutes. There, I am putting it through the speakers, but it will sound strange. What came through the speakers was not sound in any normal sense. It was like hearing sadness and loneliness turned into music. The crew felt a wave of melancholy wash over them, followed by something that might have been hope. It is trying to communicate, Dr. Clark said with excitement. The Alliance teams probably could not hear this. Their minds are too focused on survival to pick up emotional communication. What is it trying to say? Martinez asked. I think ... I think it is lonely. It has been alone in this nebula for a very long time. When ships enter its space, it tries to communicate with them. But they only respond with fear and aggression, so it tries harder. That makes them more afraid. A feedback loop, Chief Davis realized. The more afraid they get, the more energy it has to work with. The more energy it has, the stronger its attempts at communication become. The stronger its attempts, the more afraid they get. Turner looked at the shifting shapes on the screen. So it is not hostile. It is just trying to make friends. That is what I think, Dr. Clark confirmed. But it does not understand that its attempts at communication are terrifying to most species. Martinez made a decision that would have seemed insane to any Alliance commander. Open a channel. All frequencies. Captain? Park asked in surprise. You heard me. Open a channel. Park activated the communication system. Martinez took a deep breath and began to speak. Hello. We are humans from the planet Earth. We received your message. We understand that you are trying to communicate. We are not afraid of you. We want to talk. The response was immediate. The shapes on the screen began to change more rapidly, cycling through different forms. The emotional signals became stronger, but also more focused. The crew felt a surge of excitement and curiosity that was not their own. It is working, Dr. Clark said in amazement. It is responding to our calm approach. Keep talking, Captain. Park urged. The signal is getting clearer. Martinez continued speaking to the entity. We know you have been alone for a long time. We know you have been trying to talk to other visitors. We want to understand what you are trying to tell us. The shapes on the screen began to settle into more stable forms. They started to look like images, like a primitive attempt at creating pictures to communicate meaning. It is showing us something, Turner observed. Those look like star charts. Dr. Clark studied the images. Not just star charts, it is showing us a timeline. Something happened in this region of space, something that left it alone here. The entity continued to project images. The crew saw what looked like a great disaster, stars going dark, civilizations fleeing. Then they saw something else, a warning. There is something coming, Martinez realized. It is not just trying to communicate. It is trying to warn us. The images became more urgent. The entity showed them a wave of darkness moving through space, consuming everything in its path. It was heading toward inhabited systems, including some that the Alliance protected. A dark matter storm, Dr. Clark breathed. I have heard of these. They are theoretical. Waves of exotic matter that can destabilize entire star systems. How long do we have? Martinez asked. The entity projected new images, showing the progression of the storm. The meaning was clear. The storm would reach Alliance space in a matter of days, not months. We have to warn them, Turner said. The Alliance has to evacuate those systems. They will not believe us, Park pointed out. We are the humans they rejected. Why would they trust our report? Martinez looked at the images the entity was showing them. Entire worlds were in danger. Billions of lives were at stake. Then we will have to prove it to them, she decided. Dr. Clark, can you establish a permanent communication link with this entity? I think so. It seems eager to cooperate now that it knows we can understand it. Good. Chief Davis, can you repair the hull damage? With the entity's help, yes. It can reverse the energy drain now that it knows it was hurting us. Martinez turned to the main screen where the entity waited patiently for their response. We need your help. There are many people in danger from this storm. Will you help us warn them? The response was immediate and overwhelming. The entity projected feelings of determination and purpose. It had been waiting for someone who could understand its warnings. Finally, it could fulfill its purpose. Plot a course back to Alliance space, Martinez ordered. We have work to do. The Heirs Defiant emerged from the Void Nebula with news that would change everything the Alliance thought they knew about humanity. Behind them, the exotic matter entity followed in its own form of space travel, a shimmering distortion in reality. That moved between dimensions. Captain Zethkar waited aboard the Voidbreaker, expecting to recover the remains of another failed rescue mission. Instead, his sensors showed the human ship approaching under its own power, apparently undamaged and broadcasting Alliance emergency codes. They survived, Commander Vashra said in disbelief. Not only survived, but they are signaling mission. Success. Lord Krenthal studied the sensor readings. Their ship shows no significant damage. Life signs are normal. How is this possible? More importantly, Zethkar added, they are not alone. There is something following them. Something that does not appear on our sensors, but is definitely there. The human ship docked with the Alliance vessel, and Captain Martinez requested an immediate meeting with the Alliance command staff. She arrived with her crew and a portable communication device that, she claimed, would allow them to speak directly with the entity in the nebula. "You want us to believe that the phenomenon in the nebula is intelligent?" Zethkar asked after hearing their report. "Not just intelligent," Dr. Clark explained. "It is a guardian. It has been trying to warn anyone who enters its space about an approaching danger. A dark matter storm that will reach Alliance territory in less than a week." "Impossible," Voshra stated. "Our best teams investigated the nebula for months. If there was an intelligent entity there, they would have discovered it." "Your teams could not communicate with it," Martinez replied calmly. "Their survival instincts were too strong. The entity feeds on fear and aggression. The more afraid someone becomes, the more energy it has to work with. Your warriors were like a banquet to it." "Are you suggesting that our strength was a weakness?" Lord Krenthal asked, his voice carrying a dangerous edge. "I am suggesting that different situations require different approaches," Martinez answered. "Your species are incredible survivors. You have evolved on worlds that would kill most beings instantly. But this entity does not communicate through dominance or strength. It communicates through empathy and understanding." To prove her point, Martinez activated the communication device. The bridge was filled with the same emotional signals that the human crew had learned to interpret. But where the humans heard loneliness and urgency, the Alliance officers heard only noise and confusion. "It is trying to show you the danger," Dr. Clark explained. "But you cannot hear it because your minds are focused on survival, not communication." The Alliance officers exchanged glances. The idea that their greatest strength could be a limitation was difficult to accept. "Even if we believe your story," Zethkar said, "how do we verify this supposed storm? Our sensors show no unusual activity in the regions you claim are threatened." "The entity can show you," Martinez replied, "but you will need to trust us to translate." What followed was the strangest briefing in Alliance history. The human crew interpreted the entity's emotional communications, translating warnings about stellar coordinates and timeline predictions into language the Alliance could understand. The entity showed them star charts that matched Alliance navigation data, but with additional information about subspace distortions and exotic matter concentrations. "If this data is accurate," Lord Krenthal admitted reluctantly, "then 17 Alliance worlds are in immediate danger. The storm will hit the Helix system first, then spread to the industrial sectors." "Your scientists can verify the predictions," Dr. Clark offered. "The entity is willing to share all its knowledge about the storm's movement and composition." While the Alliance officers debated what to do with this information, another crisis developed. The rescued researchers from Deepwatch were examined by Alliance medical teams, and their reports provided even more disturbing revelations about human capabilities. Dr. Murdoch, the lead scientist from Deepwatch, had observed the human rescue operation from inside the station. His report to the Alliance Council would become one of the most significant documents in their history. "The humans did not just survive the nebula," he told the assembled Alliance leaders. "They thrived in it. They treated the hostile environment as a puzzle to solve rather than a threat to overcome." "Explain," demanded Counselor Thigmer. "When Alliance teams entered the nebula, they fought against its effects. They used superior technology and willpower to push through the obstacles. The humans did the opposite. They studied the effects, learned from them, and adapted their approach accordingly." "That sounds like standard scientific methodology," another counselor observed. "No," Dr. Murdoch continued, "it was more than that. They seemed to enjoy the challenge. When their equipment failed, they found creative solutions. When they encountered the unknown, they got excited rather than afraid. They treated a deadly, alien environment like an interesting vacation. This observation led to a deeper review of humanity's application to join the Alliance. The data that had seemed laughable 3 months ago now appeared in a different light. Their gravity is twice their body weight, Bashra noted, but they choose to live at altitudes where the air is thin. They climb mountains that serve no purpose except personal challenge. Their predators are small, Krenthal added, but they hunt creatures 10 times their size using only primitive tools. They track prey for days across hostile terrain. Their planet has safe regions, Zethkar observed, but they choose to live in deserts, frozen wastelands, and volcanic regions. They call it adventure. The Alliance officers were beginning to understand that they had misjudged humanity completely. Earth was not a garden world that produced weak beings. It was a world that produced beings who sought out challenges for the joy of overcoming them. Look at their history, Dr. Mordock urged. They have survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts, but they did not just survive. They spread across their entire planet, adapting to every environment they encountered. They live underwater, Voshra read from the updated files. They live in frozen regions where the temperature would kill most Alliance species. They live in deserts where there is no water. They live in places where the air is too thin to breathe. They do not just adapt to hostile environments, Krenthal realized. They seek them out. They choose to live in dangerous places because they find it interesting. The revelation that humanity actively pursued danger as a form of entertainment was perhaps the most disturbing discovery of all. Alliance species avoided unnecessary risks because their survival instincts were so strong. The idea of voluntarily entering a dangerous situation for fun was almost incomprehensible. They have sports, Zethkar read from the cultural files. Competitive activities where they deliberately put themselves in danger for no practical purpose. They jump from high places with only a fabric sheet to slow their fall. They race vehicles at speeds that would kill them if they lost control. They explore underwater caves that could collapse and trap them, Bashra added. They climb vertical rock faces using only their hands and feet. They ski down mountains at incredible speeds. They call it recreation, Dr. Mordock explained. They do these things to relax. The Alliance Council spent hours reviewing human cultural data, finding example after example of humans voluntarily entering dangerous situations. They explored active volcanoes, dove to crushing ocean depths, and traveled to the most hostile regions of their planet just to see what was there. We have been thinking about survival all wrong, Zethkar finally admitted. We assumed that surviving a hostile environment meant being strong enough to overpower it. But humans survive by making friends with the hostile environment. They do not fight the danger, Vashra agreed. They understand it. They learn from it. They adapt to it. And then they seek out new dangers to understand, Krenthal concluded. They are not just survivors. They are explorers. They find unknown threats interesting rather than terrifying. The Alliance Council voted unanimously to accept humanity as a full member. But the terms of membership were unlike anything they had offered before. Instead of being junior partners expected to follow orders, humans would be given the Alliance's most puzzling problems. They would investigate the phenomena that pure strength and conventional tactics could not resolve. We offer Earth full membership in the Deathworld Alliance, Zethkar announced formally, with the designation of First Contact Specialists and Anomaly Investigators. Admiral Morrison, attending the ceremony via quantum communicator, smiled. We accept. When do we start? Immediately, Zethkar replied. We have reports of impossible phenomena near the galactic core. Previous teams have encountered something that does not just kill visitors, but seems to erase them from existence entirely. Sounds interesting, Morrison said. We will send a team right away. The Alliance officers exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand that humans considered the phrase "sounds interesting" to be a form of enthusiasm, not concern. The dark matter storm arrived 2 days ahead of schedule, forcing the Alliance to implement emergency evacuation procedures across 17 star systems. What should have been a disaster became humanity's first official test as Alliance members. Captain Zethkar stood on the bridge of the Voidbreaker, watching the massive evacuation fleet struggle to stay ahead of the approaching storm. The entity from the Void Nebula had been correct about everything: the storm's path, its composition, and its devastating power. But now they faced a new problem. "The storm is moving faster than predicted," reported Commander Vashra. "At this rate, it will reach the Helix colonies before we can evacuate them." "How many people are still on those worlds?" Lord Krenthal asked. 40 million beings across 3 planets, Vashra replied grimly. "The evacuation ships cannot carry them." All in time. Zethkar felt the weight of command pressing down on his crystal shoulders. The Alliance fleet was already stretched beyond capacity, trying to evacuate the other threatened systems. They had no more ships to send, and conventional weapons were useless against a dark matter storm. "Sir," called the communications officer, "the human ship Erse Defiant is requesting permission to approach the storm." "Denied," Zethkar replied immediately. "That storm will destroy any ship that gets too close. We cannot afford to lose our only communication link with the entity." But Captain Martinez was already speaking over the open channel. "Alliance Command, we have studied the entity's data about the storm. We believe there might be a way to redirect it away from the inhabited systems." "Impossible," Vashra declared. "Dark matter storms cannot be deflected. They consume everything in their path." "Not deflected," Dr. Clark's voice came through the speakers. "Convinced to change direction. According to the entity, the storm is not just a natural phenomenon. It is alive." The Alliance officers exchanged shocked glances. A living dark matter storm was beyond anything they had encountered before. "The entity has been studying it for centuries," Martinez continued. "The storm feeds on stellar energy, but it is also intelligent. It can be reasoned with if you know how to communicate." "You want to talk to a cosmic disaster?" Krenthal asked in disbelief. "We want to offer it a better meal," Martinez replied. "There are dead star systems in this region. Rogue planets with no life. Stars that have already gone cold. If we can show the storm where to find those energy sources, it might leave the inhabited systems alone." Zethkar considered this. It was an insane plan, but humanity had already proven that their insane plans sometimes worked. "What do you need?" "From us?" he asked. "Permission to approach the storm. Can trust that we know what we are doing." Against all military logic, Zethkar gave his approval. The Erse Defiant broke formation and accelerated toward the dark matter storm, carrying the portable communication device that allowed them to speak with the nebula entity. What followed was the strangest military operation in Alliance history. Instead of fighting the storm with weapons and shields, the human crew began a complex 3-way conversation between themselves, the nebula entity, and the dark matter storm itself. The communication was not easy. The storm was ancient and alien, its thoughts moving on timescales that spanned millennia. It did not understand concepts like individual life or civilization. To the storm, stars and planets were simply sources of energy to consume. But Dr. Clark had spent years studying impossible life forms, and he approached the storm like any other alien species that needed to be understood. He began by establishing basic communication protocols using mathematical concepts that any intelligent being would recognize. "It is responding," he reported to the Alliance fleet. "The storm acknowledges our presence. It is curious about us." "What is it saying?" Zethkar demanded. "It wants to know why we are interfering with its feeding." It does not understand why. We object to its consumption of the stellar energy in this region. Captain Martinez took over the communication. She had dealt with hostile negotiations before, though never with a cosmic entity that could destroy star systems. We are trying to explain that the stars it wants to consume have planets with living beings, she told the Alliance fleet. But the concept of individual life is difficult for it to understand. The negotiation continued for hours while the storm grew closer to the inhabited systems. The entity from the nebula served as a translator, helping to bridge the gap between human concepts and the storm's vast alien intelligence. Finally, Dr. Clark made a breakthrough. The storm understands now. It did not realize that the energy sources it was consuming supported smaller forms of life. It is not hostile to life. It simply did not recognize us as being alive. Can it be convinced to feed elsewhere? Voshra asked. Better than that, Martinez replied. It is willing to help us. In exchange for showing it where the dead systems are located, it will help us evacuate the threatened worlds. The Alliance officers watched in amazement as the dark matter storm began to change its behavior. Instead of consuming everything in its path, it started to carefully extract energy only from dead stars and rogue planets. The threat to inhabited systems disappeared as the storm learned to distinguish between living and dead stellar formations. But the storm's help went beyond just avoiding populated areas. It used its massive gravitational influence to accelerate the evacuation ships, shortening travel times between threatened worlds and safe harbors. What should have taken weeks was accomplished in days. Evacuation of the Helix colonies is complete, reported Lord Krenfel. All 40 million inhabitants have been safely relocated. The storm is moving toward the dead systems we identified. Vojra added, it seems satisfied with the alternative food sources. As the crisis ended, Captain Zethkar found himself re-evaluating everything he thought he knew about problem-solving. The Alliance had always approached threats with superior force and technology. But the humans had solved an impossible situation through communication and understanding. How did you know it would work? He asked Captain Martinez during the post-mission briefing. We did not know, she admitted. But we have learned that most problems become easier when you try to understand them instead of just fighting them. Even cosmic disasters? Especially cosmic disasters. The bigger the problem, the more interesting it usually is. Dr. Mordak, who had observed the entire operation, added his own observations to the Alliance records. The humans did not just solve the crisis, they made friends with it. They turned a cosmic threat into an ally. This became the template for humanity's role in the Alliance. Over the following months, human teams were sent to investigate the galaxy's most puzzling phenomena. They made contact with energy beings that lived inside stars. They negotiated treaties with machine intelligences that had been hostile for millennia. They solved mysteries that had baffled Alliance scientists for generations. Each success followed the same pattern. Where Alliance teams had tried to overcome threats through superior strength and technology, human teams succeeded through curiosity, creativity, and an almost reckless willingness to try new approaches. They do not fear the unknown, Zethkar observed during a council meeting. They are excited by it. They seek out the most dangerous assignments, Voshra added, and they treat them like entertainment. They have redefined what it means to be strong, Krenthal concluded. Strength is not just about surviving hostile environments. It is about thriving in them, about finding joy in challenges that would terrify others. The Alliance's first joint mission with humanity came 6 months later. Strange readings near the galactic core indicated something that was erasing entire star systems from existence, leaving behind regions of space where nothing could survive. 3 Alliance expeditions had been sent to investigate. None had returned. Human team consisted of the crew of the Ear is Defiant, now upgraded with Alliance technology, but still maintaining their uniquely human approach to problem solving. "We are ready to depart," Captain Martinez reported to the Alliance Council. "This is the most dangerous mission we have ever authorized," Zethkar warned. "Previous teams have not just been destroyed, they have been erased. No wreckage, no distress signals, no evidence they ever existed." "Sounds like a Tuesday back home," Martinez replied with a grin that Alliance officers were learning to recognize as human enthusiasm. Dr. Clark added his own perspective. "If something is erasing matter from existence, then it is probably the most interesting phenomenon in the galaxy. We cannot wait to study it. Just remember," Admiral Morrison said over the communicator from Earth, "you are representing all of humanity out there. Try not to make friends with anything that could end the universe." "No promises," Martinez laughed, "but we will do our best to come back with good stories." As the Urus Defiant departed for the Galactic Core, the Alliance officers watched with a mixture of admiration and bewilderment. Humanity had joined their organization by failing to meet the traditional requirements for membership. But they had proven that there were different kinds of strength, different ways to survive, and different approaches to solving impossible problems. "They are not warriors in the traditional sense," Zethkar mused. "They are explorers. They find the unknown fascinating rather than threatening."